Burkina Faso has taken a bold and historic step that goes far beyond bureaucracy or cartography. Under the decisive leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the nation has just redefined its administrative landscape, reshaping not only the map of the country, but also its very identity. On July 2, 2025, during the weekly Council of Ministers held in Ouagadougou, the government announced sweeping reforms that will change how the country is governed, protected, and represented. The decisions include the creation of new provinces and regions, a complete reorganization of territorial boundaries, and perhaps most powerfully, the renaming of all administrative regions using indigenous languages. This is not merely administrative, it is cultural, strategic, and deeply symbolic. It marks a new chapter in the Burkinabe story, one of sovereignty, unity, and security. The changes come at a time when Burkina Faso faces enormous challenges, particularly in terms of national security. Vast areas in the east, Sahel, and the Bouclés du Mouhoun have been plagued by instability and threats from armed groups. These regions, accounting for nearly 43% of the national territory, were previously governed by administrative systems that failed to fully address the realities on the ground. But President Ibrahim Traoré and his team decided that it was time for the country to stop functioning with an outdated map drawn in a different era, by different hands. It was time to take full control of its own destiny, starting with the very lines that define it. The government, through the Ministry of Territorial Administration, led by Minister of State Émile Zerbo, introduced two major decrees to initiate this transformation. One focused on the reorganization of the national territory, with the creation of new administrative units to improve strategic governance. The second aimed at renaming these territories using names in national languages, reflecting the cultures, values, and histories of the people who live in them. Both decrees were approved without hesitation. With this move, Burkina Faso has officially increased its regions from 13 to 17 and its provinces from 45 to 47. But beyond the numbers, what truly stands out is the intent behind these changes. 4 new regions have been added to the national structure. Soum with its capital in Djibo, Sirba with Bogandé as its capital, Tapoa centered in Diapaga, and Suru with its headquarters in Tougan. These regions were not created randomly, but were carved strategically from existing ones to address urgent security and administrative concerns. In addition to the new regions, 2 new provinces were announced: Diamongu Province, with its capital in Kanchari, and Karopeli Province, with Arbinda as its administrative center. These areas are known for their vulnerabilities and for being underrepresented in past administrative frameworks. By elevating them to provincial and regional status, the government is making a clear statement: no Burkinabe citizen, no matter how remote their community, will be left behind. But perhaps the most profound change is one that reaches beyond politics and security: the renaming of every single region in the country using indigenous languages. For decades, Burkina Faso's administrative zones carried names that either had colonial origins or had been preserved in French for international compatibility. That era has now come to an end. In a powerful act of cultural reclamation, the government has renamed all 17 regions using toponyms from the country's diverse local languages: Mure, Fulfulde, Dioula, and others. This is not just about changing signs on government buildings. It's about reconnecting with identity, memory, and the spirit of the land itself. Under this reform, Dédougou becomes Bankui, Gaoua becomes Joro, Fadangurma is now Gulmu, Bobo Dioulasso is Guirico. Ouagadougou, the heart of the nation, retains its name, but the region becomes Kadiogo. Kaya is now Quilcé. Dori is renamed Liptako. Koudougou becomes Nando. Tenkodogo is now Nakambe. Manga takes on the name Nazinon. Zinyare becomes Ubri. Bogande takes the name Sirba. Djibo is now the heart of the Soum region. Banfora becomes Tanunyan. Diapaga remains the capital but now of Tapoa. Tugan becomes the head of Suru. And finally, Oahiguya is in a region now called Yadga. These are names that carry weight, meaning, and history. They come from the people. They speak to local legends, rivers, kings, ancestors, and landscapes. They reconnect the people with their past in a way that a foreign language or borrowed name never could. And this wave of renaming doesn't stop at the regional level. Several provinces have also adopted new indigenous names. San Matenga becomes San Bontenga. Ubratenga is now Basatenga. The province of Sum is renamed Jelgoji, and Kosi now carries the name Kosin. These changes send a powerful message not just to the Burkinabe people but to all of Africa. We are reclaiming what is ours. It's a moment of symbolic liberation, but also of practical transformation. The government has declared a 6-month transition period for this reorganization to be fully implemented. During this time, administrative departments will begin using the new names, updating all public documents, signage, and procedures. Schools, hospitals, tax offices, and local councils will align with the new map. The changes will also be integrated into national databases, governance platforms, and public communication systems. It's a massive task, but one that has been met with enthusiasm and pride across the country. For Captain Ibrahim Traoré, this isn't just reform, it's restoration. Restoration of dignity, restoration of control, restoration of the African soul within the structures of governance. His vision, often misunderstood or challenged by international critics, has always been grounded in one idea. Burkina Faso must stand on its own feet for its own people. Whether it's resisting external interference, building local industries, supporting rural communities, or now reshaping the nation's administrative identity, every decision made by this government speaks to one thing: independence in its truest form. And in this, Traoré joins a growing chorus of African leaders who are tired of waiting for validation from former colonizers. Ghana has digitalized its public services to reduce corruption. Rwanda has implemented world-class governance systems. And now, Burkina Faso is showing the continent that we don't need to be trapped in colonial logic. We can design our own futures, shape our own governments, and speak our own languages with pride and confidence. It's important to recognize that maps are not neutral. They carry the values of the people who draw them. For over a century, African borders were drawn in Berlin, London, and Paris, not in Ouagadougou, Accra, or Bamako. They were made to divide, not to unite. But what we are witnessing today in Burkina Faso is a new beginning, a chance to erase artificial lines and instead draw boundaries that reflect real communities, real histories, and real futures. The renaming of regions and provinces may seem like a symbolic gesture to outsiders, but to those who understand the power of language, culture, and identity, it is revolutionary. It says to the child growing up in Tugan, now in Suru region, that his land has a name born from his own culture. It tells the woman in Arbinda, now capital of Karopeli province, that her home matters enough to be named, elevated, and governed with intention. It assures the elders who remember stories from before independence that those stories still live, in the names, in the rivers, and now on the map. And perhaps most importantly, it tells the rest of the world that Burkina Faso is not afraid to break with convention, not afraid to challenge colonial legacies, not afraid to lead with purpose. This is a nation that is rising, not by imitating others, but by listening to its people and honoring its roots. What happened on July 2, 2025, is more than a policy. It is a movement, a shift in the soul of the nation. To the people of Burkina Faso, this is your time. To Africa, this is your moment to reflect. We don't need permission to define ourselves. Our land, our language, our laws, these are not inherited from elsewhere. They are born from the soil beneath our feet, the voices of our ancestors, and the aspirations of our people. Burkina Faso has shown that with vision, responsibility, and respect for its heritage, even the lines on the map can be redrawn in the image of a nation seeking harmony and strength. As the world watches, let it do so with understanding. This is not just change. It is a thoughtful choice, one that speaks to the dignity of a people and their right to organize their affairs in ways that reflect who they are, where they come from, and where they wish to go. In this time of transition and renewal, what Burkina Faso has undertaken may inspire others to consider their own paths, rooted in peace, guided by culture, and shaped by the will of the people. Let it be seen for what it is, a quiet but confident step toward a more balanced, sovereign future.